Absolutely. I do think the industry views queer and inclusive travel as a niche. And while it is part of mainstream, I think it will always be a niche because if you look at the percentage of queer people there are in the world, every business will market to the mass, not to the smaller divisions. And I think businesses, especially tourism businesses, need to factor in how do they make people from the queer community.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Travel Leaders Podcast. In this episode, we're joined by Duncan, the founder of Global Travel Moments, an award-winning inclusive travel company curating journeys that celebrate individuality, connection, and joy. From luxury escapes to meaningful adventures, Duncan shares how inclusivity is reshaping the travel industry and why the most important experiences are the ones where everyone feels like they belong. So welcome, Duncan. Hello.
Thank you
I'm
very much, and good morning, Gemma.
Good morning. I'm so thrilled to have you on the podcast today. And I've actually been really looking forward to this conversation ever since I heard about the global travel moments. You've spent nearly 3 decades creating journeys that celebrate individuality and connection, and your approach to inclusive, luxurious travel feels more relevant than ever. So before we dive in, could you just start by sharing a bit about the story behind the business, how it began, and what inspired your mission to make travel truly for everyone?
Sure. Great question, and a great way to start. I founded Global Travel Moments 8 years ago now as a small niche travel agency servicing a number of clients, but with a real core value that, irrespective of gender expression, gender identity, everybody deserves the same equal opportunity to experience and discover the world. And why that's so important, as a member of the community myself, I've traveled for many, many years. I've been in tourism, as you rightly pointed out, and that makes me feel very old now, for 3 decades now. Having started my career in South Africa, having worked in Ireland, having worked in the UK, having worked at sea, the one thing that resonated throughout my entire career is how stereotypical our industry is in its approach to welcoming and supporting clients. And what I mean by stereotypical is very much how the industry focuses on the traditional cis white heteronormative couple in marketing, PR, and just in how they welcome people to properties and resorts. So my mission was to very much change that and to look at inclusivity as a whole, not just for the community, but for people with disabilities, for people of colour, to look at every single aspect of how properties and hotels make you feel, and to incorporate that into the experience that a client has from the minute they reach out and speak to myself or one of the team.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Because inclusive travel can mean different things to different people. So you touched on, the race element and the disability, people of disabilities having access to travel as well, which I've seen over the years has become a huge topic. And it shouldn't be over the recent years. It should have been for such a long time already. For you and your team, what does it really mean in practice?
It's a really interesting thing. It's looking at the onboarding process of a client. For example, if we look at when we onboard a new client that might be trans, we really need to show a lot of compassion, a lot of patience and understanding for a lived experience we personally may not have. And also really be able to have the difficult conversation of positioning and saying, we've got to be your advocate. So we may have to ask some difficult questions of you to better understand your specific needs and circumstances. And that's the same for someone who might be in a wheelchair or someone who might have a hidden disability that they don't often share or talk about, but for them impacts how they travel. For those within the queer community, it's knowing and understanding safety concerns and challenges. And it's recognizing that not every country is welcoming and not every country has laws in place to protect or make them feel safe and welcome. So it's about providing information to them. It's looking at how do we keep them safe while they travel? How do we keep them safe before they travel? What are we doing to follow up when they get back? What are we doing to educate our partners and our suppliers and our providers about the necessities, the essentials, the must-haves, would love to have experiences and opportunities that clients are sharing with us? All of that is, what we kind of focus on when we talk about how do we do our day job.
Okay, great. And you've been doing this long before inclusivity became a buzzword. Have you seen awareness and attitudes shift across the industry?
I would certainly say there has been a massive shift, and it's peaks and troughs and ebbs and flows. Last year was one of the largest in terms of Pride celebrations around the world, both for sponsorship and support. And this year it's been one of the hardest hit elements. So if we look at how society as a whole shifts, there's been a real difficulty. DE&I, for example, has become a negative term when in actual fact DE&I is more important than ever, because it doesn't just speak to one person, it speaks to a multitude of people and how they get perceived and how they get seen as they travel through the world. And what we see often in travel is, and I'll use the heteronormative Mr. and Mrs. Being mistaken for a lesbian couple, for a gay couple, for a queer couple who are non-binary. That is a challenge that has been around for many, many years. As we become and see the queer community become much more mainstream and more recognized, attitudes and service standards do need to shift and adjust to incorporate that and make everyone feel welcome, not just assume that the couple booking in is a straight couple.
Okay. And do you mind, just for you're educating me beyond what I was expecting. So do you mind me asking what heteronormative means?
Sure. So heteronormative would be a cisgendered straight couple. So, you would have someone who identifies as male, is born male, someone who is born female, identifies as female. That's cisgendered. They identify in the gender in which they were born, and they're in a heteronormative, which is a heterosexual relationship. So a cisgendered male, cisgendered female relationship.
This is a new word for me. Thank you so much. So, and do you think travelers today are becoming more intentional about where they book with and what values these companies represent? Do people really go that deep?
Yes, I definitely think clients are much more focused on the outcome as much as they are about the planning of it. They're very, very focused on what products they book in terms of resorts, in terms of airlines. In the queer community, we see people really dive into safety research, product research, and by product research, it's really looking at a track record of LGBT engagement from a hotel brand. Are they pink washing? Are they just showing up for Pride to showcase that they're wanting to capture that audience and that financial benefit of the queer community, as an example? Or are they actually there all year round through charity, through education, through support? So I definitely think people do look at that. We see it when people choose countries and where they plan to travel. The more adventurous are looking at countries where the on the ground is shifting and changing, and they feel comfortable and confident enough to go there. Whereas we have other clients that might look at it and go, I'm not comfortable traveling here because of X, Y, and Z, because this is the law, this is what I've heard. So there's a disconnect. Or an element of safety. For clients who might have mobility challenges, we find it's a case of them looking to do experiences that may not have been open to them before, and being willing to spend a little bit more. And I have a great example. I have an elderly couple that are doing a trip through Japan next year. And we've looked at how do we give them the same experience, but ensure that we can account for the fact that they have significant mobility challenges. And that's through providing private drivers throughout. It's through looking at the guide that we put with them that's going to really ensure that they're engaged and understand their limitations
Yeah.
and can adapt and adjust. It's about putting them on a cruise from Tokyo that then gives them the ability to relax on a ship that is small but intimate. It's looking at another client who travels with a wheelchair. It cannot travel without this, needs assistance when he boards the plane. Looking at the airline we choose, are they going to provide that level of support in business class to help him into his seat because he needs that help, because he still wants to travel? Is not going to lose the wheelchair between airport A and airport B, which is the horror story so many people in wheelchairs experience. And then it's also looking at, for those clients that have the budget, is private flights a better option? Does that give them wider availability and opportunity? I think the biggest shift in 25 to 26 is experiential. I know it's a buzzword. It's been used to death, as has authenticity. But despite everyone using them, they are so relevant to how people are looking at travel.
Yeah, I completely agree. From my own personal perspective, time as a mum of two now, time really isn't on my side. And when I know that I'm going to see my friends, it could be, a candle making session we've done before. We've gone to, I know it sounds typical, but even just a spa experience or going to the Cotswold, everything has now became about an experience. We could go
Absolutely.
to, for a concert, but this is now our big birthday day out. Gone are the days where, we want to go out drinking or partying. Everything comes down to having that experience of being together. I don't know if that's because of COVID as well, that we were locked away from the world and everything was taken away from us. But personally, in my sphere, I completely resonate with experiences being at the forefront of how I like to enjoy my time now.
I definitely think COVID has had a massive impact. We had that period of revenge travel where everyone was like mad to just get abroad. And I think what that taught people, that 2-3 years immediately after COVID, was that connection was more important than the photograph. And so I think having that perfect Instagram shot, that Instagrammable location, has taken a back seat to, I want to go and spend time with those that I'm closest to and share something with them that we can talk about for the rest of our lives, that isn't necessarily on social media, that isn't necessarily going to be this, I've got to go here because everyone's going there. Pre-COVID, we saw a lot of people going, oh well, our friends just did this trip and we want to do a similar trip. Now we're very much like, our friends did that, great, good for them. Well, this is us. This is who we are. This is what we like. This is what we enjoy. And so it's very much become personal to them and a way to disconnect.
Absolutely. Oh, thanks for that. You've pretty much touched on designing experiences that go deeper, and how you don't just accommodate that, you're designing experiences to fit around that particular individual. You also work a lot with US based travelers heading abroad. Can I
Yep.
ask what destinations are resonating most right now?
So what we're seeing is a lot of Southeast Asia, Japan, We're seeing a lot of South Korea interest now. We're seeing a lot of Laos. Potentially, it's more explorative still. People are looking for the Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia of 20 years ago when they travel. In Japan, they're starting to go off the traditional path. So they're looking beyond the golden route. We're seeing a lot of your European countries, but a little bit of a shift away from Italy and France, and a shift to Switzerland and Northern Europe. So Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland are becoming quite popular for that coolcation element where they're coming for less heat. We've seen a lot of people in the past year look to Portugal as an alternative to Italy, and then we're still seeing a lot of interest in Southern Africa and Southern Hemisphere. So Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. From the US. And it's not too dissimilar from the UK. Our clients who are traveling outbound from the UK and Europe, they're going further afield. They're looking at South America. And so they're looking at Buenos Aires and Argentina, exploring that country. They're going into Chile. Some are going down south to Southern Africa or going into Kenya. And Rwanda. And we see some clients who want to go east, and they're doing, again, a little bit more of Southeast Asia, including Singapore, Hong Kong, as kind of the connectors on occasion. And then a couple are looking at really, longer trips where, for example, we've just had clients traverse through North America, Canada, and the US. And that was a 4-week trip that they were on, incorporating some of the most spectacular hidden gems.
That sounds incredible. Every day must be so interesting. Do you mind me asking, do you also do same-sex couples with families as well, like beyond just...
Yeah, absolutely. We're about inclusivity. So that means that we don't, reject any one. What we do ask of our clients is that they're open-minded and an ally of inclusivity. That for us is our key and core value. What we try to avoid is where it's not the right fit, because not everyone looks at the world through the same lens we do, and we respect that. In which case, if they're not a good fit for us as a business, we can refer them to other advisors or agencies that might be a better fit.
Yeah, that's great for, and especially for integrity. Sits at the heart of what you do. That's incredible to hear. I also love that your business sits within the Global Travel Collection, and that you've been recognised by Condé Nast Traveller, my favourite, for your work. That's huge.
Thank you.
Absolutely huge. So can I ask, what does it take to build a business that's both inclusive and commercially successful?
Great question. A really hard one to answer. I think passion and drive have been part of the journey, but I also think you have to run a business. Too many people get into travel and forget that you can't just service clients. You actually have to look at your whole overall strategy for what it is you're trying to do and build, and focus on looking at and knowing all your numbers. And if you're not commercially minded, or don't have anyone in your team who is commercially minded, and you're not analyzing your wins, your losses at every single stage, I don't think you can be successful. I think being able to step back and go, is what we're doing correct? Is what we're selling correct? Are our margins correct? Are we working with the right partners to execute the right experiences? Are we seeing referrals, and are we seeing reviews come through that reflect the work that we're doing? I think that leads to a commercially successful business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And do you think there's still a perception in parts of the industry that inclusive or queer focused travel is a niche, when really it's part of the mainstream future?
Absolutely. I do think the industry views queer and inclusive travel as a niche. Um, and while it is part of mainstream, I think it will always be a niche because if you look at the percentage of queer people there are in the world, every business will market to the mass, not to the smaller divisions. And I think businesses, especially tourism businesses, need to factor in how do they make people from the queer community feel that they are being spoken to and they are welcome in the destinations. And some destinations do it incredibly well. I think Visit Stockholm. I was just recently there with LGBT Stockholm to see what they're doing. They have an incredible way of making the queer community feel truly welcome to the city. And I think other destinations, other tourism boards could learn a lot from what they are doing to encourage people to come and spend their money in their cities.
That's incredible. I'm going to look that up. Stockholm. That's a good one to know for sure. So I'm just going to touch slightly on tech visibility and the next
Sure.
chapter. So as someone who's been in travel for decades, how do you see technology and even AI supporting inclusive travel over the next few years? If you've got any comments on that.
So this is a great topic for discussion at the moment because I think AI is inherently biased. I think AI, as it stands, is learning from current language and current terms. So when you think about how AI is programmed, it's inherently biased against inclusivity in some respects and makes for an interesting challenge when you start to leverage it to do mainstream research into inclusive travel. So I do think there's room and opportunity for how AI gets leveraged. We're already incorporating it as much as we can to utilize it for research purposes and to help us make mistakes quicker. So that we can look at things and we can map out how does this look based on our knowledge, based on our years of experience, based on routing, based on airline, based on product, and does that work so that we can turn itineraries around a little bit quicker, and also provide a little bit more of deep research into a destination, without having to perhaps go on to the legal sites to really dive into exact nitty gritty of law, case law, and things like that, where we may have been asked a question around safety, as an example. I
Okay.
think AI is coming into the tools we use. So, whether it's our itinerary builders, whether it's our CRMs, and I think that's streamlining and helping us to sort through information and pull data in a more realistic way. So I think it gives business owners in travel and tourism an opportunity to better understand their business and where their gaps might be and where their opportunities might be.
Yeah.
I think that's really exciting. I'm excited for what AI and tech is going to do in the next 5 to 10 years, because I think we're at an inflection point where we're going to see some massive upgrades and jumps forward in the technology available in travel. You have to remember the travel industry is still running on top of the GDS, which is the global distribution system. Amadeus, Sabre, Galileo, and WorldSpan. And they are antiquated systems. They are very, very old systems. And AI and technology has a real opportunity to look at these systems and figure out a way to do it differently and possibly better.
Yeah. And it starts from, like you say, from the top down. If that filters down, it gives people more of an opportunity in itself to progress as well. So rather than be scared of what's to come, embracing and learning, I think could be
Definitely.
it's an interesting time, even for myself, everything that I'm picking up.
And I had an interesting conversation the other day about AI and travel, and people were like, "Well, will AI replace the travel advisor as a whole?" And my feeling on this is no. I think that we will see a shift within the budget space for sure. I think we will see AI come in and be able to handle budget inquiries quickly, turn them around. The margins will improve overall for businesses, and because you can cut out the massive amount of work that a person may need to do on that particular booking. However, in the luxury space, and this is the space that we do the majority of our work, it's too personal. It's too one-on-one. It's really a connection between the advisor and the client in front of them, and it's a human connection that AI I cannot see replacing.
Absolutely. I actually think I'm on the same page as you with that. So thanks for that. So could I ask what's next for Global Travel Moments? Are there any new destinations or experiences you're especially excited about for 2026 at all that you could share with us?
So a couple of things are coming up. We're currently working on integrating a hotel booking tool for our clients on our website, which will give our clients who like to just book the odd hotel here and there themselves the ability to go online and get access to our preferred partner perks and amenities through a private portal. So it'll only be for our clients to use, which is an exciting development for us. It'll also give us the opportunity to see which clients are using it and how we can better support what their needs really are. So an example could be a client who books 3 nights, 4 nights for a weekend stay in Berlin. We can then have a conversation with them. Do you need any touring? Do you need any assistance with getting there? Is there anything that you want us to assist with beyond just the hotel? Because we also recognize we've got a balance of clients, some who like to engage, some who just on occasion like to book a hotel because they don't want to disturb us, which I'm always amazed by because we love dealing with our clients. So when a client says, well, I just didn't want to disturb you, it was only one room. And I'm like, at the heart of it, our business is just that one room because it makes you as a traveler happy. So we want to make sure that you get looked after the way that we know you should be. So that's one exciting development. We're focused quite heavily on growth at the moment. So we have 2 independents who started with us this year. I'm hoping to bring on a few more next year. In terms of other elements that we're focused on, we're building out our preferred partner base in Asia because it's been one of our biggest growth areas over the last couple of years. And so we've really explored who we're working with and doing a lot of educational with them on how to work with an inclusive client base. And then I would say, what do I see next? This is a really, I think, hot topic. I think as much as coolcations and beach breaks have been, the big thing for the last 2 years, I see long haul and fully disconnecting as being what people will want in 26 and 27. And that is going to be not just the traditional fly and flop, which is such a usual euphemism for the British traveler, where they'll fly to a destination, land there, and they'll stay there for a week, be on the beach. I see experiential and immersive as being what clients will want from next year's travel. I see them wanting to do bucket list trip to Antarctica, a twin country safari experience across Africa, so maybe Victoria Falls in Cape Town, an immersive winery experience through Provence. It will be much more thoughtful. I think it will be multi-generational. We've seen multi-generational has been rising, but I've never seen as much as I have in this year for next year. I
Wow.
think more and more, and when I talk multi-generational, I'm not just talking grandparents with kids and grandkids. I'm talking grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles,
Uncles. Wow.
15 to 20 to 30 people traveling as a family to a destination, taking over a private villa, taking over a boutique hotel that's only 20 rooms, for example,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
really, really spending a week or 2 exploring a country together and breaking off into family groups to do their own activities while they do that.
Yeah, incredible. You're actually the second person that's mentioned expedition as well of something like the Antarctic. and safari. That's the second time I'm hearing this. So yeah, let's watch this space. Well, listen, Duncan, this has been such an inspiring conversation. My mind is blown. So much has been learnt through this session with you. I love how you've shown that inclusivity isn't just an idea, it's genuinely an experience. So before we finish, I've got two questions actually. I want to ask where you are thinking of going next year, and also what's one piece of advice that you'd give maybe to other travel founders who want to make their and build a more inclusive brand.
So I'm actually off to Japan next month. I'll be in the south of France in December for ILTM, which is the end of year luxury travel trade event. I'm in Scotland in January. And I'm hoping to get a little bit more time in Italy next year. We're seeing off the beaten path Italy spots in Tuscany and beyond, down in Puglia, for example, Sardinia, become of interest again. And so I'm really conscious that I need to spend a little bit more time in Italy. And then, of course, I'll be in South Africa for my brother-in-law's wedding. That's who knows where else I might end up.
That's incredible. That's an
Uh,
incredible list.
and then for other founders or other travel business CEOs and owners, I really think inclusivity starts with just being open. It's being open to engage with organizations, to engage with employees, to engage with other people in the industry, to hear out what they have to say and figure out how to understand your clients and go, are our clients from the community? Are our clients people with disabilities or living with challenges? Are our clients people of color? Are they of different religious backgrounds? And then how do we help them have a better experience?
Yeah.
It's not about exclusion. It's about doing it from a place of good intent.
Yeah. It's not seasonal, genuine.
Exactly.
That's great. Duncan, thank you again so much. And finally, where can our listeners find out more about Global Travel Moments or connect with you, for example?
So the easiest is to follow us on Instagram. Global Travel Moments is our handle, or just to visit globaltravelmoments.com.
That's great. Thank you, Duncan. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. Bye
Thanks.
for now.